Welcome back. Today marks a turning point in our course. We've completed the story of the decipherment of hieroglyphs. It's important to understand how the code was cracked. But from now on, we won't begin with lectures, with background material, and end with hieroglyphs. We won't do that. From here on, we'll start with hieroglyphs, and then at the end of the lecture, we'll apply what we've learned to art, civilization, religion, and other aspects. So let's start with our homework. I asked you to translate 4 sentences from English into hieroglyphs. The first was, "The maidservant knows the secret." Well, by now, we all know we begin with the verb, which is rech, to know. Next would be our subject, maidservant, pronounced baket. Last is our new word for secret, seshta, which contains the ta biliteral. And that's our first sentence. The maidservant knows the secret. It would have been vocalized as something like rech baket seshta. Good. Next, we had the vizier is in the office. Our verb is. So we start with eu. Next, we add the subject, the vizier, which is pronounced chati and has our cha biliteral. We need in, and that's our old friend the owl hieroglyph. Last, we need the word for office, which uses the cha biliteral. The vizier is in the office. U chati em cha. Good. Next, we have the donkey is in the road. This sentence requires 2 biliterals. But first the verb, is, which is you. It's the donkey who's in the road. So we add our onomatopoetic word, ea, which uses the ea biliteral. Next, he's in the road. So that's our owl. Last, we need road, which has the wa biliteral, and the entire word was pronounced wat. U, ea, em, wat. Good. Our last sentence is the daughter ferries across in the boat. Ferries across, our verb, contains the ja biliteral, a vulture phonetic complement, and a boat determinative. There it is. Our subject, daughter, uses the sa biliteral, but we add the t, the loaf, because she's feminine. Sat. She's in the boat, so we use our owl for im. Last, we just add boat, which is depet. Ja, sat, en, depet. And that's our sentence. The daughter ferries across in the boat. Good. Now let's add a few vocabulary words to our dictionary so we can translate more real texts. Again, I'll write the word and you tell me how it's pronounced. It's good practice. This is a version of another word we've already had, so it should be easy. It has 2 determinatives, so the only thing we have to worry about are the first 2 alphabetic hieroglyphs, R and SH. So it's pronounced resh. The other similar word we've had before was reshwet. Reshwet means joy or gladness, the noun. Our new variant, resh, is the verb to rejoice or be glad. The double determinative shows that it involves emotions, which one can see on the face or express by speech. Our next word is an idiom, a word that doesn't really follow the rules. If you figured out that it should be pronounced itef, you're thinking correctly. But you happen to be wrong. Sorry. The horned viper hieroglyph is silent. That's why I said it's an idiom. The word is pronounced it. We know this from Coptic. we can tell it has something to do with a man from the determinative. It means father. How is this word pronounced? Yep, it's pronounced itaru. And the three water signs at the end form the determinative that shows it has something to do with water. It's the word for river. In this word, pronounced something like meza, the determinative gives its meaning away. It's the word for crocodile. Let's do a couple more words. They'll enable us to read and write more complex sentences. Here we have the ideogram stroke sign, so we know it's a picture of the concept. We know the R hieroglyph is a mouth, so the word means mouth. It also means an utterance or a spell, as in a magical spell. As you would expect, it's pronounced Here's another ideogram. It means what you'd expect, face. It also means sight, and was pronounced her. It's also the word for upon, and it can mean concerning or with respect to. So it's important because it has many uses. When President Obama visited Egypt, he was inside a tomb and noticed the face hieroglyph on the wall and commented, "It looks like me." I think it was the big ears. Once in a while, we will see this hieroglyph substituted for the owl. It's a statue base and also represents the sound just like the owl. We saw this in the word for truth, ma'at. We should enter this hieroglyph on the M page of our dictionary with the same meanings as owl. Let me give you, for homework, a few sentences and phrases with our new vocabulary words to translate into hieroglyphs. The crocodile is in the river. Try that one. How about the moon rejoices when the sun is in the horizon? How about the land rejoices because Ptah is in the city? That's a nice one. These sentences will reinforce our new vocabulary words. Okay, scribes, get the ink and the pens. We're going to start a new grammar lesson. Pronouns. Remember the old Beatles lyric, "I me mine, I me mine, I me mine"? Those are personal pronouns, and we're going to learn those words today. Pronouns take the place of nouns. I can use a name to refer to a person, as in the sentence, "Ted is long gone." Ted is a proper noun because it's a name. However, I could also say, "He is long gone." In this case, I've replaced the noun with the pronoun he. It's the same with common nouns. I can say, "The house is red." House is a noun. I can replace it with a pronoun and say, "It is red," where it is the pronoun. We can also have possessive pronouns that we use to show ownership. I can say, "That's Fido's blanket," or I can say, "That's his blanket," where his is a possessive pronoun. Today, we're going to learn what we call the suffix pronouns. These are added to the ends of words, and that's why we call them suffix pronouns. They can be used at the end of verbs to show who or what is doing the action, what the grammarians call the nominative case, or they can be tacked on at the ends of nouns to show possession. I'm going to show you plenty of examples, so don't worry. It will all be clear at the end of the lecture. But first, let me give you some good news about pronouns in ancient Egypt. The suffix pronouns are the same for possession and in the nominative. This isn't the case in English. For example, I can say, "I run," but I can't use the I for possession. I can't say, "I car." I have to say, "my car." I need two different pronouns. In Egyptian, it's the same pronoun for both cases. Let me show you what I mean. Let's try a sentence with a pronoun, actually two. Before you try to translate it, let me tell you that the man sign is the word for both I and my. It is our first suffix pronoun, and like other suffix pronouns, is added to the end of verbs and nouns. Now, let's translate the sentence. The verb comes first, as it should, and you is the word for is. Next, we have our suffix pronoun, the man attached to the verb. So we know it's not going to be possessive, so we have I am. Now, what's our owl doing? It has several meanings, and we have to pick the right one. So let's look at the end of the sentence. The house hieroglyph is being used as an ideogram. The man hieroglyph, attached to it, is the possessive, since it's attached to a noun. So we have my house. So it looks as if the best meaning for owl is in, which gives us I am in my house. Good. Now, ladies, I know what you're thinking. What about me? Do I have to use the man hieroglyph to say I or my? You don't. Feel free to use the woman hieroglyph. So your version of I am in my house would look like this. Just replace the two man hieroglyphs with two women hieroglyphs. It would have sounded something like E-U-E-M per E. The suffix pronoun is pronounced I or I, like that. Actually, the woman hieroglyph was not used in this way till the 19th dynasty, from 1292 to 1187 BC, which may show progress for women in ancient Egypt. Now for the other suffix pronouns. You or your, masculine, is simply the basket K. You or your, feminine, is the tethering ring ch. When we transliterate suffix pronouns, there's a useful convention. Because suffixes are technically part of the word, they're attached to, we don't separate them in the transliterations. We conjoin them to the word by means of a dot or a period. So if I wanted to say, you speak, and I'm talking to a man, I would write like this, and the transliteration would be jed.k, jedka. If I were talking to a woman, it would be jed.ch. The tethering ring makes sense for the feminine because it's a kind of T, and that's the feminine ending. It's a way to remember it. He, his, it, or its is a horned viper. So his house would be per F. She, her, or it, or its is a folded cloth. So her house would be per S. So that's it for the singular suffix pronouns. Now let's look at plural suffix pronouns. We, us, or our is the water sign with 3 strokes for plural. 3 strokes are used for plurals of all kinds. We here would be sejum.n, sejumen. We don't have to worry about masculine or feminine in the plural, is what we call common. One suffix pronoun fits all. For you or your in the plural, we have the tethering ring, water sign, and 3 plural strokes beneath them, pronounced chen. Good. Our last plural for they, them, or their, that's a folded cloth, a water sign, and 3 strokes, pronounced sen. Their scribe would be sesh.sen. There's one more pronoun we should know. We'll see it later, but let me show it to you now, so your pronouns will be complete. How is it pronounced? That's right, tu. This is the impersonal pronoun. It means one, as in the sense of one should always be kind, or one should always do one's homework. It's indefinite. It doesn't specify a particular individual. That's it for suffix pronouns. Now we need lots of practice so we can learn them. They will sink in. I'll give you a hieroglyphic sentence or phrase to translate. But first, tell me how it sounds. Okay, let's see how to vocalize it. Best way to do that is break it into words and take them one at a time. What's our first word? Where does it end? We know it's probably a verb because verbs come at the beginning of the sentences. Then we recognize an old friend, the word for rejoice, pronounced resh. And it ends with a man with his hand to the mouth. That's our first word. What's our next word? Yes, it's scribe, which ends at the man determinative, and it's pronounced sesh. We're getting it. Next is a very familiar verb, to be, which we know is pronounced you. Next, we have a suffix pronoun, something new, that we probably have to look up. Well, it's simply pronounced and means we or are. Since it comes suffixed to a verb, it must be we. It's not possessive. Now we have an owl, which is pronounced M, and is going to mean something like in or from. We'll just have to see from the next few words which is the best sense. Well, the next word is house. We see the ideogram stroke, and this is pronounced per. We know that. This is followed by a lone viper, another suffix pronoun. We remember it's pronounced F because it's an alphabetic hieroglyph. But we may have to look it up to see what it means, which suffix pronoun it is. Well, it means he or his. And since it's attached to a noun, house, we know it's going to be his. It's possessive. So the vocalization of the sentence we want to translate would be something like resh, sesh, you, n, m, per, something like that. Once we've separated it into words for vocalization, the transliteration is easy. The scribe rejoices when we're in his house. I inserted the when because it's probably the meaning, and the Egyptians didn't have a word for when. It's understood. I know this is a lot for one day. We have new vocabulary and suffix pronouns. Don't worry. We're going to go over it, and our suffix pronouns will be very familiar after several lessons. For suffix pronoun homework, let me just give you 2 sentences from hieroglyphs to English. Here's the first. It's a long one, but you're going to be able to do it. And now a shorter one. Okay, that's it for homework. Now, let's do a little excursion into ancient Egyptian religion. We talked a bit about the god Ptah before. He was one of the gods intimately connected to writing and words. So let's examine Ptah's role in Egyptian religion. Ptah was viewed as a creator god, and that creation is closely connected with words. So he's particularly relevant to what we're learning. In one myth, Ptah is presented as the god who creates the world with words. We'll look at that closely in a minute, but let me tell you how we know about this myth. We have only one copy of the text, and it's in the British Museum. It dates from the 25th dynasty, which extended from about 760 to 656 BC, and which was a very special period. This is when the Nubians marched north and conquered Egypt. For years, Nubians had been under Egyptian rule, but now Egypt had been invaded several times by foreign powers and was weak. And the Nubians saw their chance. They had a love-hate relationship with Egypt. They didn't like the idea that Egypt controlled Nubia, but they also admired Egyptian civilization. So when the Nubian kings conquered Egypt, they didn't plunder. Just the opposite. They wanted to restore Egypt to its former greatness. They built their own temples to honor Amun, Egypt's most powerful god during this period, and even copied old religious texts to preserve them. One of these ancient texts relates to the god Ptah and is called the Shabaka stone, after the Nubian king who had it copied. Today, it's in the British Museum, and it doesn't look like much, so everyone walks by it. But it's unique and interesting. It's kind of squarish, and it's got a hole in the middle, and it has an inscription in hieroglyphs all over it. But it's badly worn, especially in the middle. Originally, it was a round-top stela that Shabaka erected. But in the 19th century, some Egyptian farmers found it and recut it to use as a grindstone. So this stone was being used as a grindstone for decades. That's why there are those radiating lines on the stone, for the grain to slide out. That's why it's so worn. And that's unfortunate, because this is a unique text. But there's just enough to make out what it's about. It's sometimes called the philosophy of a Memphite priest. It's almost philosophical. The text begins with a wonderful introduction. Shabaka says, "I found the writings of the ancients damaged, and I restored it better than it was." Now, what exactly does that mean? One possibility is that the old text was damaged and it had gaps, and Shabaka filled in the gaps. This is certainly possible. But I've always wondered, what was the original text written on? My bet is papyrus. So when Shabaka says he made it better, he could also mean that he's taking something that was written on papyrus and is carving it on stone. So when Shabaka is restoring an ancient text, he's probably copying a damaged papyrus. Shabaka viewed this text as his heritage, and he restored it by carving it in stone, erecting it in front of a temple. This is a pious deed, and Shabaka is remembered for it. Very few Egyptian kings are mentioned in the Bible, but the Nubian kings are referred to as the pious Ethiopian kings. Shabaka's restoration of a religious text is a pious act. Ptah was the chief god of Memphis, one of Egypt's oldest cities. Egyptian gods usually came in threes: a husband, a wife, and a child. In Memphis, the triad was Ptah, Sekhmet the lioness, and their son, Nefertum. The text on the Shabaka stone describes the world's creation in 3 steps. First, Ptah thought it. And then he said it on his tongue. And then finally, it became real. The text doesn't exactly say that Ptah thought it. The Egyptians believed you thought with your heart. They didn't understand the function of the brain. Remember, they threw the brain out when they mummified. So when they talked about thinking, often the heart was mentioned. Our text says, there took shape in the heart of Ptah, there took shape on the tongue of Ptah, the form of Atum. Now, Atum is the traditional creator god of Egypt, who created all the other gods. The Shabaka stone is asserting the primacy of Ptah. It's Ptah who creates Atum, and thus all the other gods. Later, the text says, Ptah, the very great one, gives life to the gods and their cause through his heart and tongue. This is not unlike "in the beginning was the Word." Notice that just thinking it wasn't enough. Ptah had to say it. The words were crucial to the creation of the world. We've been talking about how Ptah created the world. Now let's see what he looked like. This is a drawing done by one of Champollion's artists in the 1820s. In addition to creating the world, he has a funerary aspect. First, notice that his feet are together, bandaged like a mummy. He assists at the opening of the mouth ceremony during mummification. This ceremony ensured that the deceased would be able to speak and say the magical words in the next world. Ptah was a very popular god, and often Egyptian names included him. For example, Ptah Hotep means Ptah is pleased. The first hieroglyph after Ptah is a cone of incense on a reed mat. It's a triliteral, pronounced HTP, so we say Hotep. The two hieroglyphs under it are the phonetic complements for the P and the T sounds. The word usually means to be pleased. So the name Ptah Hotep means Ptah is pleased. In the same way, Amenhotep means Amun is pleased. Now, back to Ptah's iconography, how he's depicted. I want to focus on the scepter that he's holding. It's a symbol of power. In its simple form, the scepter is called a was scepter. It's the head of a ram, representing the god Amun, and at the bottom is a ram's cloven hoof. Was means power in ancient Egyptian. It was also the root of the name of the ancient city of Luxor, Waset. So you can see, because it's a town, it has a feminine T there, and we have the town determinative, helping us figure out what it means. We'll talk more about that in a later lecture on ideograms. The ancient Egyptians called their city Waset. But when the Greeks came into Egypt, they marveled at the temples. And they likened it to their Thebes and called it Thebes. Later, when the Arabs invaded Egypt and saw all the temples, they thought they were palaces and called the city Luxor, Arabic for palace. Now, back to Memphis and Ptah's scepter. Look at the top. There are 3 hieroglyphs that give his attributes. There's the Dejed pillar. It's a biliteral for the sounds J and D, Dejed. It represents the backbone of the god Osiris and is the word for stability. So Ptah provides stability. Then we see the Ankh, representing life. The Ankh hieroglyph is actually a triliteral for the sounds E, our alphabetic arm E, N, Ch, Ankh, Ankh. We add it to our dictionary in the A page since it's almost always written that way. Finally, we have the ram head for power, Amun. The greatest of all the gods in Luxor was often shown as a man with the head of a ram. So his scepter tells us Ptah was power and gives both stability and life. You can see how even a minimal knowledge of hieroglyphs helps us understand Egyptian art and religion better. We now look at the scepter in a way different from someone who doesn't know hieroglyphs. It's not just an exotic staff. It's saying something. It's good to know hieroglyphs. But apparently not everyone in ancient Egypt agreed with this. Let me explain. Certainly for most people, being a scribe was a worthy goal. It was a profession. Every mother wanted her son to be a scribe. So you're all junior scribes in training. You realize that just drawing the hieroglyphs is a pleasure. But many Egyptian boys didn't understand this. They had to be convinced. There's a wonderful papyrus in the British Museum called Papyrus Lansing because it was owned by Ambrose Lansing. Papyri are named after their owners, and Papyrus Lansing is all about becoming a scribe. It's one great sales pitch to be a scribe, written by the royal scribe Nemare Nacht. It's addressed to a student who doesn't realize what a noble calling being a scribe is. It begins with extolling of the virtues of being a scribe. You will make friends with those greater than you. You will be advanced by your superiors. Love writing, shun dancing. Then you will become a worthy official. Befriend the scroll and palette. It pleases more than wine. Writing for him who knows is better than all other professions. It pleases more than bread and beer, more than clothing and ointment. It's worth more than an inheritance in Egypt, more than a tomb in the West. Neb Ma'areh Nacht then goes on to explain why all other professions are inferior. The washerman's day is going up and down. All his limbs are weak from whitening his neighbor's clothes every day, from washing linen. The maker of pots is smeared with soil, like one whose relations have died. His hands, his feet are full of clay. He's like one who lives in the bog. The cobbler mingles with vats. His odor is penetrating. His hands are red with dye, like one smeared with blood. Remember the fate of the unskilled laborer. His name is not known. He is forever burdened like a donkey, carrying things in front of the scribe, who is educated. The papyrus goes on and on from profession to profession. You are all willingly signed up for this course, so I don't have to convince you to do your homework, so you won't smell like a tanner, so you won't have your arms tired from washing your neighbor's laundry. I know you'll do your homework, so I'll see you next time.